All right. This video is going to be walking you through the Romeo monologue. You should have the Romeo monologue open in another tab and follow along with it in that tab. You do not need to watch this video. This is just providing you with guidance verbally. At the top, you will see that it's Romeo for Romeo and Juliet. You then see the link to this video, which you obviously already found. The next link will take you to a professional actor portraying this particular soliloquy. Given circumstances, explain all of the backstory, and in this speech, it explains what's happening right at this moment. Romeo has just met Juliet, but they got pulled apart at the party because he's a Montague and she's a Capulet. But he has snuck away from his friends, gone into her garden, and is now standing in her garden looking up at her window where he just saw a light come on. And he is wanting to see her. The way that we're going to do this is I'm going to read it once, then we're going to go through it and break it down sentence by sentence, like you will in your translation project. And then I'll read it one more time now that we understand it better so you can kind of hear it with understanding. Um, Remember in your translation project, you only need to translate the lines that you will be performing. But if you have 15 lines, for example, that you have to perform, they may be the first 15, they may be the last 15. So we're going to break down the whole thing so that you can decide which part of this you might want to perform if you choose to portray Romeo. So here we go. But soft. What light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon, who is already sick and pale in grief that thou, her maid, art far more fair than she. But be not her maid, since she is envious. Her vestal livery is but sick and green, and none but fools do wear it. Cast it off. It is my lady. Oh, it is my love. Oh, that she knew she were. She speaks, yet she says nothing. What of that? Her eye discourses. I will answer it. I am too bold. 'Tis not to me she speaks. Two of the fairest stars in all of heaven, having some business, do entreat her eyes to twinkle in their spheres till they return. What if her eyes were there, they, pardon me, what if her eyes were there, they in her head? The brightness of her cheek would shame those stars, the daylight doth a lamp, as daylight doth a lamp, and her eyes in heaven would through this airy region stream so bright that birds would sing and think it were not night. See how she leans her cheek upon her hand. Oh, that I were a glove upon that hand, that I might touch that cheek. All right, to put this plainly, he is just dragging it. He is so in love at this moment that he is just being corny. So he's broken into this garden, and you get but soft. And remember in your translation, you stop at a exclamation point, a period, or a question mark. So, but soft is be very quiet. What light through yonder window breaks? He's like, I see light in that window. What is that? Is that her? Like, just be quiet. I see a light come on in the window. It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. So he's saying, this is with her light coming on, it's like the sunrise in the morning. Like light is just pouring onto his face and his soul because he's so happy that she's nearby. Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon, who is already sick and pale with grief that thou, her maid, art far more fair than she. So he's saying, I'm outside, we're in moonlight. But if you come outside and that light pours out, it will no longer be dark and cold because of the moon. It will be warm and bright because of you. And he's like saying, you're the sun, and the moon is jealous of you because the sun and moon are friends, but the moon knows the sun is so much more powerful and so much more beautiful. So he's like, come out and shame the moon with all of your beauty. Be not her maid, since she is envious. So he's like, she's so jealous of you, the moon, that you shouldn't even be her friend. Just be the amazing thing you are that is more powerful and beautiful than the moon. Her vestal livery is but sick and green, and none but fools do wear it. So he's saying, like, the light that is reflected by the moon is just this sick, jealous green light. But the light that comes from the sun is bright and beautiful. And he's saying, she's just jealous of you. So jealous that moonlight is green because she is jealous of Juliet. And he's like, none but fools do wear it. He's like, no one would prefer to bask in the light of the moon when they could bask in the light of the sun. Cast it off, meaning just forget the moon. Now Juliet steps out onto her balcony and he sees her, not just the light. And he says, it is my lady. Oh, it is my love. That's really clear. He's like, look, it's her. I love her. Oh, that she knew she were. And he's like, if only I could tell her how much I love her. She speaks, yet says nothing. So he's like, she's mumbling something. I can hear her talking, but I can't hear what she's saying. Um, what of that is like, I can't hear what she's saying. So what do I make of that? Then he says, her eye discourses. I will answer it. So he's like, she's looking all around the garden. I should jump out and say something to her so she knows I'm here. It's like her eyes are looking toward me. I should reveal myself. And this is really funny because he is just about to jump out and then he says, I am too bold. 'Tis not to me she speaks. So he, for a second, wants to be like romantic and be like, I am here. And then suddenly he's like, no, wait. What if I look stupid? What if she thinks that's stupid? No, I am too bold. She's not talking to me. I'm not, I'm just going to sit here and be quiet. Then is when he just starts going over the top. I mean, he's already said she's more beautiful than the moon, but now he's got to just go off. So, two of the fairest stars in all the heaven, having some business, do entreat her eyes to twinkle in their spheres till they return. So he's like, if two stars in heaven had to go somewhere because they were busy having some business, they could just take her eyes and put them in the sky and they would twinkle as brightly as the stars. What if her eyes were there, they in her head? And so now they're saying, like, what if her eyes were in heaven and those stars were what were in her face? So they're saying if she had star eyes, the next line is, the brightness of her cheek would shame those stars as daylight doth a lamp. Her eyes in heaven would through the airy region stream so bright that birds would sing and think it were not night. Oh, Lord, Romeo. Okay, so he says, if she did have star eyes, You wouldn't notice because her cheeks would still be brighter than the stars. And her cheeks would be so bright that it would be like sunlight coming into a room that just has a lamp on and you no longer see the lamp. And her eyes, which wouldn't be there, they would be in the place of the stars, they would shine so bright that birds would sing all night long because they'd think it was daytime because of the brightness of these stars. Finally, he says, see how she leans her cheek upon that hand. So he's just watching her and she's sitting there and she's like, ah. So he's like, oh, look at how perfectly she puts her cheek on her hand. Oh, that I were a glove upon that hand, that I might touch that cheek. All right, Romeo. So he's just saying, look at her lean on that hand. I wish I were a glove so that I could be touching her cheek instead of her touching her cheek. He is just over the top. I mean, it's great because that's how you feel all these stupid thoughts when you first fall in love with somebody. But yeah, he's really being mushy. Okay, so we'll read it one more time. But soft, what light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon, who is already sick and pale with grief that thou, her maid, art far more fair than she. Be not her maid, since she is envious. Her vestal livery is but sick and green, and none but fools do wear it. Cast it off. It is my lady. Oh, it is my love. Oh, that she knew she were. She speaks, yet she says nothing. What of that? Her eye discourses. I will answer it. I am too bold. 'Tis not to me she speaks. Two of the fairest stars in all of heaven, having some business, do entreat her eyes to twinkle in their spheres till they return. What if her eyes were there, they in her head? The brightness of her cheek would shame those stars as daylight doth a lamp. Her eyes in heaven would through the airy region stream so bright that birds would sing and think it were not night. Oh, how she leans her cheek upon her hand! Oh, that I were a glove upon that hand, that I might touch that cheek.